In the story of self, we're really learning when the speaker began to care and why they care. In the story of us, we're learning how we as a community also care. In the story of now, we're facing an urgent challenge. And it's our opportunity to act on our values that we've established in the story of us in a way that's meaningful and that pushes us forward. In this clip, you're gonna watch Rosie tell a story of now, and Jeff's gonna be coaching her. Pay attention to a few things. The first thing, what do you notice about Jeff's pacing when he's really trying to get out the details of the ask that Rosie is making? Also, pay attention to how he understands what the urgency is. What kind of questions is he asking to build out urgent moments that help us understand why we need to act now and not tomorrow? Let's watch.
Okay, so let's go into the story of now. Sarah, can you put 2 minutes on the clock, please?
Sure.
Rosie, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So earlier this week, as y'all know, Betsy DeVos came to our campus, and it was just a few days after she had rescinded this important piece of Title IX legislation that stopped protecting survivors of sexual assault on campuses. And students on our campus came together in really creative ways from a bunch of different schools on campus, and they created these posters, these banners that were like 10 feet tall, 20 feet tall, and they dropped them from inside the room in her speech. And you couldn't take a picture in that room without seeing one of these banners with their messages. And they were silent throughout the whole thing, which meant that they didn't get kicked out, but their messages spoke volumes through these huge visual images. And it actually made national news, and we were able to send our message much, much further than that one room. And so I think we've seen the power of having this network and this ability to mobilize quickly and have really strong visual imagery to respond to things that are happening either on our campus or in the broader world. And every day we see policies coming down from this administration that are incredibly scary and are affecting our school right now and our classmates. And so I'm going to ask you, my ask is that you gather materials like really big banners and like bed sheets and pieces of cardboard at your house to be ready when something like this happens. We can make a response really, really quickly.
Okay, great, thank you, Rosie. How much time was that?
30 more seconds.
Okay, great. So you're ahead of time. So one thing that was really great here is that I heard a lot of hope in your story, right? Story of now. One of the key ingredients is that there needs to be hope in it, and I heard the hope in taking collective action, people coming together, and having really clear visuals to help send a clear message, right? One thing I was less clear about was the actual ask, right? What were you asking people to do? So who here heard the ask? What was the ask?
To gather materials, to make signs for future protests.
And do you feel like you have enough information to actually do that?
I think it was like go off on your own and do that. I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah. So something about the ask, right, is that you want to make it clear, specific, measurable, visible, and collective. So instead of asking everybody to go off individually and take action on their own, how can you make this a collective ask?
You could bring all that stuff to my house, and we could do it together.
Great. And then specifics. So when?
Sunday,
Okay. And where's your house?
on Huron Ave,
What time?
5 p.m.
Great.
Yeah.
So now we're specific. And then how can you make it visible and actually make it an ask that it ends in a question mark?
Okay. Raise your hand if you're coming to my house at 5 p.m. on Sunday. Who's with me?
Okay. So you got one. Sarah, what about you?
It's nothing personal. I just like I'm really busy. I don't have time for this.
Okay, great. So all of us are very busy, right? So how can you make this more urgent? It's really important to have urgency in a story of now, right? So who is impacted by this problem?
I guess like last year for the Muslim ban, it was really, really hard to mobilize quickly, and we went to Staples and bought some materials, but we didn't really know what to do or how to help.
And do you know anybody specifically who was impacted by the problem?
Oh yeah, there was a guy in my statistics project group, and he was stuck at the border, and we didn't know whether he was whether he was going to be able to come back and like finish our group project with us. And that guy in our econ class now is on DACA, and he's undocumented. Remember, and he'll be affected by this new policy that came out about DACA or rescinding DACA.
Does this increase the urgency for you, Sarah, make it more compelling?
Yeah, I mean those are like they're my friends, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. So I just want to lift that up, right? That when we move from abstract to more specific, it really helps make the problem more urgent and more compelling for people. So just a few points before we wrap up, right? One is, in a story of now, it's critical to have hope. Another is that you need to have a clear ask that is specific, measurable, visible, and collective. And the third is that we want to make the problem urgent, right? So that it really speaks to people and moves people. And one way to do that is to be specific about who's being impacted by the problem, okay? So thank you, good job. And just before we wrap up, what are your takeaways from this session, Rosie?
To bring in the specific stories of the people who are really, really affected, like the guy in our class, and then make my ask really concrete of like who, what, where.
Great, thank you.
Yay.
Thanks, Jen.